Be me, Vanessa Lee, 29, CFO turned CEO of my brother's commercial property management company. 8 months into the role, and honestly, I'm crushing it. Cut operational cost by 11%, streamlined our accounting systems, automated half our invoicing. Jake made the right call promoting me. Sunday brunch with the girls at Bloom Cafe, our usual spot. Avocado toast, the whole thing. Priya, Jen, and Sarah, my college friends who actually made something of themselves. Priya's a corporate lawyer now. Jen runs HR for a tech company. Sarah's in marketing. Wait, you're literally the only woman CEO in commercial property management in the entire metro area, Priya said, scrolling through her phone between bites. I shrugged. I guess. It's not something I really think about. Sarah pulled up LinkedIn on her tablet. Vanessa, your entire leadership team is men. Like, literally all of them except you. They're good at their jobs, I said. David's been there 10 years, knows every building inside and out. Exactly the problem, Jen cut in. She works in tech, always talking about disruption and transformation. You're in a male-dominated industry, managing male-dominated teams. How are you supposed to change anything? I'm changing the financials. That's what matters. Priya leaned forward. But imagine if you actually transform the leadership structure. You have the power now. Why not use it? Sarah was still scrolling. There's a Forbes article from literally this week about how diverse teams outperform homogeneous ones by 35%. You could be that story, Vanessa. I felt something shift in my chest. Part excitement, part pressure. We do have openings. Our maintenance supervisor for the downtown cluster just quit last week. Perfect. Jen practically bounced in her seat. Hire a woman, prove it can be done, prove that women can manage these roles just as well as men. They all raised their glasses. To break in barriers. I smiled and clinked glasses, but drove home with their words circling my head. That night, I pulled up our company roster on my laptop. 73% male. The numbers stared back at me like an accusation. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was playing it too safe. Monday morning, I mentioned it casually to David Morrison, our head of operations. He's 48, been with Jake since year 2, knows everything about everything. I'm thinking about our hiring approach, I said during our weekly check-in. We should be more intentional about diversity. David nodded slowly. Sure. HR, accounting, leasing agents, that makes sense. We've had great women in those positions for years. What about operations, maintenance supervisors? He paused, choosing his words carefully. Vanessa, those roles require specific experience, 24/7 availability, physical demands, vendor relationships built over years. It's not about gender, it's about reliability and expertise. I heard something else. He's protecting the boys' club. No, I'll keep that in mind, I said coolly. After he left, I texted Jen. You were right, they're resistant. Her response was immediate. Of course they are. Don't back down. 2 weeks later, I interviewed Keisha Williams for the downtown maintenance supervisor position. She was 31, confident, had worked in office property management for another company. Not field experience, but she had enthusiasm and talked about bringing fresh perspectives and collaborative leadership styles. I hired her on the spot. I also promoted Amy Chen from leasing agent to assistant operations manager. She was 27, sweet, had been with us 2 years. She seemed ready for more responsibility. When I sent the company-wide email announcing the changes, David showed up at my office within 20 minutes. Keisha has no emergency systems experience, he said, standing in my doorway. Amy's never managed vendors or contractors. They'll learn. You did? I worked under my predecessor for 3 years before taking over operations, and I was on call every single night. Times are changing, David. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded once and left without another word. At the staff meeting introducing Keisha and Amy, I watched the room carefully. The women smiled and asked questions. Lisa, our office manager who'd been there 5 years, gave Keisha an overly bright welcome that felt slightly forced. The male maintenance workers were polite but quiet. I noticed Carlos, one of our senior maintenance guys, exchange a glance with another worker. Keisha gave a short speech about bringing new energy and collaborative problem solving to the team. After the meeting, I walked past the break room and heard two of the male workers talking. "Give it a month," one said. "I'm taking the over on that bet," the other replied. I kept walking, jaw tight. That Sunday at brunch, my friends celebrated like I'd won an award. "You're literally doing it," Sarah said, "changing the industry from the inside." I posted on LinkedIn that afternoon, proud to announce expanded leadership opportunities for women at Chen Properties, excited to see fresh perspectives reshape how we serve our clients. 847 likes by midnight. Comments flooded in praising my bold leadership and commitment to equity. I screenshot it and sent it to the group chat. Jen replied with 5 crown emojis. I went to bed feeling like I'd actually done something important. Week 4, I got an email from Amanda Park, a reporter for Metro Business Journal. She'd seen my LinkedIn post and wanted to interview me about leadership diversity in traditionally male industries. The interview went perfectly. We met at a coffee shop downtown, and I talked about empowering women, breaking cycles, bringing fresh perspectives to an old-school industry. She asked about Keisha and Amy specifically, and I explained how they represented a new approach to property management. "What do the men on your team think about these changes?" Amanda asked. "They're adjusting," I said. "Change is always uncomfortable at first." The article published the following Tuesday with the headline, 29-year-old CEO Reshaping Commercial Property Management. It highlighted my finance background, mentioned our groundbreaking leadership diversity initiative, and quoted me saying, "Competence has no gender. It's about giving talented people opportunities they've been denied." My friends shared it everywhere. The comments section filled with praise. Jen texted, "You're literally changing the industry." Yeah, I printed the article and framed it in my office. What I didn't mention in that interview, Amy had successfully negotiated a new cleaning contract that saved us $1,200 monthly. It was office work, her strength, and I pointed to it constantly as proof my approach was working. What I also didn't mention, Keisha had missed 2 emergency maintenance calls in her first month, and David had quietly handled both situations himself. Week 6, my phone rang at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. "Groggy," I answered. "Vanessa, it's Keisha. We have a major leak at the Riverside office plaza. Tenant called it in 20 minutes ago." I sat up, trying to clear my head. "Okay, did you shut off the water?" I can't find the main shut-off valve. I'm in the mechanical room, but there's like 50 pipes, and I don't know which one." "Didn't Tom show you during the transition?" Tom was the previous supervisor who'd quit. "He showed me a lot of things. It was overwhelming." Water running in the background, a tenant yelling. "Call David," I said finally. "It's almost 3 in the morning? Call him, Keisha." David talked her through it remotely at 3:15 a.m. I listened on the line as David walked Keisha step by step. "Blue valve on the left wall. No, left. Turn it clockwise. The other way, Keisha." His voice was patient, but I could hear the exhaustion. The tenant was yelling in the background about servers and lawsuits. I sat in my dark bedroom, feeling completely useless, listening to David save my mistake at 3 in the morning. The water got shut off, damage contained, but the tenant, a law firm paying $18,000 monthly, sent a formal complaint the next morning about response time. David came to my office that afternoon. She should have known that. Tom trained her for 2 weeks on emergency systems. It's her second month. She's still learning. The tenant doesn't care. They're paying $216,000 a year. I'll smooth it over with them. David left without arguing, which somehow felt worse than if he'd pushed back. Week 7, Lisa emailed me and Keisha separately, within 10 minutes of each other, about a scheduling conflict. Lisa needed the maintenance crew for a tenant move-out cleaning. Keisha said the crew was scheduled for urgent repairs elsewhere and suggested Lisa's admin team handle the cleaning. Lisa's response, ceasing me. That's literally what the maintenance team is for. We've always coordinated these together. Keisha's reply, also CCing me. Maybe if there was better advance planning, we wouldn't have these conflicts. I had to mediate a 30-minute call where both of them remained professional but clearly couldn't stand each other. They both left the conversation unsatisfied, and I had no idea how to fix it. Carlos watched the whole thing from across the office. The door was open and said absolutely nothing. Our quarterly team lunch was week 7, 20 people at a local Italian restaurant. I gave a short speech thanking everyone for their hard work and specifically called out Keisha and Amy for bringing fresh energy to the team. The women smiled and applauded. The men clapped politely, faces neutral. During lunch, I noticed the women naturally clustered at one end of the table. They were chatty at first, but Keisha and Lisa sat at opposite ends, barely making eye contact. The men sat together at the other end, ate quickly, and left early. After lunch, Carlos approached me in the parking lot. "Can I talk to you Monday?" "Sure, what about?" "Property reassignment. I'd like to move to the North Cluster." I was genuinely confused. "But you've been managing the downtown properties for 6 years. You know them better than anyone." "Yeah, just think it's time for a change." He got in his truck before I could ask more questions. Sunday brunch, week 8. I mentioned some growing pains to my friends. "That's completely expected," Priya said immediately. "You're disrupting a system that's been in place for decades." "Keisha and Lisa aren't getting along," I admitted. Sarah nodded knowingly. "Women are socialized to compete with each other. It's internalized misogyny. They'll work through it once they realize they're on the same team." "Are the men being supportive?" Jen asked. "Some of them are quiet." Carlos asked to transfer properties. Jen's eyes lit up like she'd solved a puzzle. "See? They're threatened by the changes. That's actually a good sign. It means you're disrupting the power structure. Hold firm." I left brunch, feeling reassured, but there was still a knot in my stomach I couldn't explain away. Week 9, a vendor overcharged Keisha by $3,000 on an HVAC repair. David caught it during his monthly review and had to spend an hour negotiating to get half of it back. He forwarded me the email chain without comment. Week 10, Amy was on a call with a difficult tenant who was threatening to break their lease over noise complaints from the unit above. I heard her voice getting shakier through my office wall. Finally, she transferred the call to me. I handled it, but the tenant specifically asked, "Is David available?" I'd prefer to speak with him. 2 of our maintenance workers called in sick the same day that week, something that had never happened before in the 3 years I'd been with the company. David stopped offering advice unless I directly asked for it. Late one night, alone in my office, I pulled up our response time reports. Properties under Keisha's supervision, average emergency response time of 47 minutes, up from 22 minutes under Tom. Properties still under male supervisors, 20 to 25 minutes, unchanged. I stared at the numbers for 20 minutes. Then I closed the laptop and looked at the framed article on my wall. She just needs more time, I told myself. Thursday, week 11, 11:17 p.m. My phone rang just as I was falling asleep. "Vanessa, it's Keisha. Emergency at Riverside. Pipe burst on the 4th floor." I was up immediately, pulling on clothes. "Where are you?" "At the building. Water's coming through the ceiling. It's bad. The law firm's server room is right below." "Did you shut off the water?" "I need the key to the mechanical room. I don't have it." My heart sank. "The master key should be on your ring." "I have like 15 keys. I don't know which." I heard water rushing in the background. Someone shouting. "The building engineer. Call him." "It's 11 at night." "Call him Keisha. Now." 45 minutes of chaos. The building engineer lived 30 minutes away and had to get dressed and drive in. By the time he shut off the main valve, water had flooded through 3 floors. The law firm's server room had significant damage. The next morning, their senior partner called me directly. His voice was ice. "We've been in this building for 8 years. Never had a single issue until 6 months ago. What the hell changed? We had a personnel transition. I don't care about your transitions. That cost us $50,000 in equipment and data recovery. We have a backup, but this is unacceptable. I want David Morrison managing our property, not whoever that was last night. David manages the north side. Then move us to the north side, or we're gone. We're your biggest tenant at Riverside. $240,000 annually. Your call." He hung up. I sat at my desk, staring at my phone for 5 solid minutes. That afternoon, Jake called from Seattle. He was out there for acquisition meetings. "Saw some concerning numbers this morning," he said. "What's going on?" I felt defensive immediately. "Just operational adjustments. Under control. Vanessa, emergency response times are up 40% across your properties. 2 tenants filed formal complaints this month. We've never had that. We made some staffing changes." "What changes?" "Promoted some people. Brought in new talent." "Who'd you promote?" His voice was getting sharper. "I'll send you a full report." "It's fine, Jake. I'm back in 10 days. It better be more than fine." We hung up. My hands were shaking. That night, I stayed in the office until 2 a.m. I pulled every metric I could access. Response times, tenant satisfaction scores, vendor costs, maintenance request backlogs, renewal rates. I created a spreadsheet comparing properties managed by men versus properties I'd changed. The data was damning. Male-managed properties, 96% tenant retention, 23-minute average emergency response, vendor costs, flat or declining. Keisha's cluster, 87% retention with 3 tenants already confirmed non-renewals, 47-minute average response time, vendor costs up 18%. Amy's oversight areas, contractor conflicts up 200%, tenant complaints doubled. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. I tried to find ways to explain it away. Maybe the male supervisors had easier properties. Maybe Keisha inherited problems from Tom. Maybe I wasn't giving her enough support. But the data was merciless. Same type of properties, same tenant mix, same vendor pool. The only variable was gender. I felt something crack inside me. Not my ideology, not yet, but something deeper. The certainty I'd been carrying like armor. Then I opened a new browser tab and typed, "Do women struggle in leadership under pressure?" I stared at the search bar for 30 seconds, then deleted it, ashamed I'd even considered searching it. Week 12, I did a site visit to one of Carlos's properties. I found him in the parking lot doing a routine inspection. "Hey Carlos, got a minute?" "Sure." We walked toward the building. I tried to sound casual. "How are things going with the new structure?" He was quiet for a moment. "It's different." "Different how?" "Look, I don't want to get anyone in trouble." "You won't. I'm just trying to understand what's working and what isn't." Carlos stopped walking. "The guys miss how things worked before. Clear decisions, quick responses. Now everything needs approval from multiple people. When there's an emergency..." He trailed off. "What?" "We handle it ourselves now. We don't wait anymore." The realization hit me like cold water. The men were quietly doing Keisha's job for her. That's why the disasters weren't worse. They were covering. Week 12, Thursday afternoon. One of our newer maintenance workers, a woman Keisha had hired, 25 years old, enthusiastic, tried to move an industrial water heater. She was using the wrong equipment and it shifted wrong, pinning her leg. Not serious, but scary. OSHA, reportable. I visited her at the urgent care clinic. Her leg was wrapped, tears in her eyes. "Why didn't you wait for the proper equipment?" I asked gently. "Keisha keeps saying we need to prove we can do everything the guys do." I didn't want to ask for help. I didn't want to look weak. I drove back to the office in complete silence. Week 13, Friday. I heard yelling through my office wall. Lisa and Keisha, voices carrying through the supposedly soundproof door. You wasted $8,000 on a contractor who ripped you off because you don't know the vendors. Lisa's voice was shaking with anger. Maybe if your team actually communicated properly. My team is fine. You're in over your head and everyone knows it. I had to physically separate them. Sent them both home. Other employees had heard everything. 20 minutes later, Amy appeared in my doorway, crying. I don't think I can do this, she said. The contractors don't respect me. Every difficult tenant asks for David. I feel like I'm failing everyone. I tried to comfort her, but I felt the exact same panic rising in my own chest. That night, alone in my office, I opened my secret spreadsheet again. All the data I'd been collecting, the comparison between what worked and what didn't. I opened my journal. Yes, I keep a journal. Shut up. And wrote, Week 13. I thought I was doing something important, proving something. Now I'm not sure what I was trying to prove or who I was trying to prove it to. The numbers don't lie. But if I admit that, what does that make me? I closed the laptop without saving the analysis. Drove home at midnight, more exhausted than I'd ever been. Monday morning, week 14. David requested a meeting at 8 a.m. He placed a letter on my desk. I'm giving notice. 4 weeks. My stomach dropped. What? Why? You know why? David, if this is about the changes. It's not about change, Vanessa. It's about competence. He sat down heavily. I've tried to make this work. I covered for mistakes. I trained people who didn't want to learn. I watched good employees leave. Who left? 3 maintenance guys in the last month. Carlos gave notice Friday. My face went pale. He didn't tell me, because you don't want to hear it. They're going to Morrison Property Group. So am I. Morrison. The competitor who'd been poaching our clients. You can't. I can. They offered me partnership. But that's not why I'm going. He leaned forward. I'm going because I don't trust your judgment anymore, and neither do they. Silence filled the room like water. I was trying to do something good, I said quietly. No, you were trying to prove something. There's a difference. He stood. Your brother built this company working 90-hour weeks, sleeping on job sites, risking everything. I kept it running by being available 24/7 for a decade. That's not accounting, Vanessa. That's sacrifice, and you can't hire that. I thought about the last 3 months. David arriving before me, leaving after me, phone always on, always available. I'd thought he was just doing his job. I'd never considered what it cost him, what it had cost Jake, what it would cost me. Us, I can learn. You're not willing to, because learning means admitting you were wrong. He reached the door, paused. I'll train my replacement if you find someone competent, but I won't stay to watch this collapse. He left. I sat frozen at my desk for 20 minutes. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. The Riverside law firm officially gave 60-day notice. 2 other tenants didn't renew, quietly mentioning management changes as their reason. Our insurance rates increased due to the safety incident. A vendor we'd worked with for 8 years switched to a competitor, telling David, before he left, that they needed to work with people who know what they're doing. Jake called. I'm coming back early. We need to talk. Sunday, week 15. I showed up to brunch late, no makeup, hadn't slept properly in days. My friends noticed, but didn't ask. I need to talk to you guys about work, I said as soon as I sat down. Priya was checking her phone. Sure, what's up? It's not working. The changes. Keisha can't handle the properties. David quit. We're losing tenants. Silence. Sarah shifted uncomfortably. That's rough. Jen spoke carefully. Did you hire the right women? I stared at her. What? I mean, maybe Keisha wasn't qualified. You can't judge all women based on... You told me to hire her. My voice came out louder than I intended. You said women were just as capable, Priya cut in. We said women can be, but you still have to hire competent people, Vanessa. I felt like I'd been slapped. Sarah tried to pivot. This is exactly why we need more women in leadership pipelines, so there's a deeper talent pool. I don't care about pipelines, I was nearly shouting now. My company is falling apart. Awkward silence. People at nearby tables glanced over. Jen's voice went soft, therapeutic. Maybe you're just really stressed. Have you thought about talking to someone? Like a therapist? I looked at the three of them. Really looked, and realized they didn't actually care if I succeeded. They cared about the narrative. They wanted me to be a symbol, not a person. I have to go. I threw 2 20s on the table and left. I sat in my car in the parking lot and cried for 10 minutes. I texted the group chat later asking about next week's brunch. It took 6 hours for anyone to respond. When they finally did, it was just, maybe next month, super busy. Week 16. I tried to hire David back as a consultant, offered him 50% more than his previous salary. His email response, no amount of money will fix this. You need to undo what you did. I couldn't. Not politically, not emotionally, not publicly. So I tried to do it myself. I took every emergency call, handled every vendor negotiation, attended every tenant meeting, worked 80-hour weeks. One night at 3 a.m. there was a leak at one of our properties. I drove there in my pajamas, stood in the mechanical room, staring at pipes, and had absolutely no idea what to do. I called our building engineer, one of the former employees who'd left for Morrison. Sorry, Vanessa. Can't help anymore. I ended up paying a 24-hour emergency plumber $2,800 to fix something David could have handled in 20 minutes. Friday, week 17. Jake walked into my office at 6 p.m. Everyone else had gone home. I was still at my desk, papers everywhere, looking destroyed. Jesus, Vanessa, when's the last time you slept? I'm fixing it. No, you're not. He sat down, pulled out his tablet showing our financial reports. I've been monitoring remotely. We're down 22% in revenue. 5 tenants gone. 8 employees quit. Our reputation in the market is damaged. I couldn't meet his eyes. I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Tuesday. I can turn this around? With what? David's gone. Half the experienced guys are gone. The ones who stayed don't trust you. I was trying to do the right thing, I said, my voice breaking. The right thing for who? I had no answer. He left. I stayed in my office, looking at my reflection in the dark window, and didn't recognize the person staring back.